I would be able to find the forest if it were not for all these trees in the way. Production value. Hi team, you know what it is. We are back with another dose of that spiritual bleach. That high strength spiritual bleach to burn through those persistent, common blockages to our spiritual awakening, to our enlightenment. If you have been on this path to deeper realization, the path to the truth of existence, the truth of reality, if you've been on the path of asking these questions, of seeking the insight, not just the intellectual understanding, but actually to know the deeper truth about what all this actually is. What is the truth of life? What is the reality of our consciousness? What is the nature of this universe? If you've been on this path, perhaps to find truth, or perhaps to find inner peace, or perhaps both. If you find one, you find the other, by the way, so either path you're on is awesome. We're all on our way to the top of this mountain, we all just take different paths to get there. But if you've been on this path, you will have encountered these common, seeming impediments on the journey, these seeming slowing down in our understanding, which may have accelerated rapidly, but then suddenly just slowed down or even stopped. But often, these blockages are not real blockages. They're not real. There's nothing there. Often, the blockage is actually just a gap in understanding, just a very small gap, tiny little gap to understanding. We have to understand that even the smallest gap in understanding is like the break in an electrical circuit. Doesn't matter how strong the current is, the current of infinite universal consciousness in this case, if there's a gap, it stops, right? So it's actually a gap in understanding that we're hoping to plug. Or occasionally just that thin veil of delusion. The mind created logical block that the mind actually creates, and this creates a molecule thin veil that actually darkens our experience. And we may not be aware that actually enlightenment is the removal of that which darkens. The light is always there. That's the key. The light is always there. The light is always shining. Just as the sun is shining right now, brightly. The sun shines bright and fierce as it always does. It never stops. It's constantly blazing. However, there is a layer of cloud. And from the perspective of the sun, right, which is vast and incomprehensibly powerful, think about how tiny and minuscule the cloud covering this part of the earth really is. It is nothing. But from my perspective standing here, that tiny amount of cloud is enough to completely, maybe not completely, but block out the sun's brilliant magnificence. And that often is what is manifesting as an apparent blockage to our awakening, into our enlightenment, to our understanding, into our inner peace. It's actually just a tiny thin veil that the mind has created, this illusion, this shadow. And it's this shadow that darkens your experience. And upon the removal of that veil and that shadow, the truth of the pure, brilliant light of consciousness can shine through once again in all of its splendor, beauty, and magnificence. But we must understand it was always there. Today's episode is actually a follow-up from my last episode, my last installment of Spiritual Bleach, which I don't often do. I try to have them as self-contained pointings, we could say, I guess, seminars. I don't really see myself as a spiritual teacher. I see myself more as a spiritual teaching assistant, or a meditation coach is probably the safest definition that I've managed to come up with, because whatever you call yourself, people are going to have a problem with it. So in my experience, just don't call yourself anything and let other people make their mind up. Absolutely fine. Anyway, so this is a follow-up to the last one, in which we discussed, in the consciousness-only model, in which we come to understand that all is an appearance within consciousness, and it's just one singular consciousness. We are not 7 billion consciousnesses walking around separate and individual, but it's actually one singular, infinite, universal consciousness, of which we all appear within. So that's the model that we're working on here. And upon the revelation of awakening and enlightenment, this is the truth that is revealed. That's what but it's not enough to know it intellectually. We actually have to have this experience ourselves. But naturally, that's quite a lot, isn't it? Right? That's quite a lot to kind of take on board, and naturally the mind is going to have some questions to this. And rightly so, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with querying and questioning, unless we get so attached to the querying and questioning that we believe we're seeking and searching, but actually we are stuck in one singular place because we are believing that we're making progress, because we're asking so many questions. We feel like we're being a good seeker, but actually this is too much mind activity. We're not actually getting any closer to a felt and experienced understanding. So in the last episode, we spoke a little on what are other people? If this apparent reality is essentially an illusion, do other people exist? And that was answered in the last one. However, I need to make this follow-up video because there's two reasons. One, there's quite an important point that I forgot to mention. Whoops, and it was actually kind of crucial to the point I was trying to make. It had been a long day when I made that episode. But anyway, I kind of just straight up forgot to teach this certain point. And naturally, there were quite a few comments that asked about this. And so I thought, why not answer it? Because these questions and comments are in the category of comments that I consider absolutely fair enough. You know, they get asked quite a lot, and it is fair. It's a fair point. And most of the comments have been very respectful. Some aren't. And by the way, just a tip here. If you want people to take you seriously, always put your questions and comments in a respectful manner, and they are far more likely to be answered. That's just generally in life, not even on YouTube. But the comment, the question has two aspects to it, which is totally fair. It's so if the appearance of being individual, if the appearance of being a temporary, finite, separate self is ultimately illusory, it's not the true reality of the situation, and actually the awareness of my experience here, standing here as a body-mind, my awareness of that is exactly the same as your awareness of your individual body-mind. It's the same awareness. Like, there may be two fishes swimming in the ocean. They both swim in the same ocean. Two different fish, one ocean. Kind of like that. So if that's the case, then who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? Because if there are no other people, why communicate? Because who could I possibly be communicating to? Right? So what's happening there? What is this communication? If I don't exist and you don't exist, who is talking? And who is this? If nobody is talking, then who is this nobody talking to? Right? Fair enough. Fair question. Absolutely. Question I asked. So we'll be answering that. And then secondly, why bother? Why bother talking about it? Why even, if we're all infinite universal consciousness, and this whole thing is a process that is resolving itself, right? If the infinite universal consciousness is just gradually awakening across the globe, okay, across the planet, we're essentially all one interconnected neural network at this point, and it's gradually awakening the consciousness, the intelligence is becoming more refined, more sattvic, right? Becoming more enlightened, for want of a better word, globally. Then why bother speaking on any of this? Wouldn't it be better to just leave it all and just let, the universe doesn't make mistakes, right? So why am I getting involved? Okay, why get involved at all? Why not just leave it and let people figure, if it's true, right? The truth stays true. That's the beautiful thing about the truth. The truth stays true, regardless of how you feel about it. The truth stays true. So if that's the truth, why say anything at all? And it is fair enough, because it does stand to reason that, doesn't it in some way diminish my argument? Because obviously I'm putting something forwards here. I'm putting a theory forwards. And doesn't it somewhat damage my argument and weaken my argument and weaken my theory if I'm saying I don't exist and you don't exist, essentially? Because doesn't it weaken the argument somewhat then, that I'm continuing to speak it if I truly believed what I'm saying, why would I be speaking at all? Isn't the fact that I'm communicating proof against what I'm trying to put across? Am I not damaging my own argument simply by virtue of the fact that I'm speaking at all? Because the fact that I'm speaking, doesn't that imply on some level that we are in fact separate? Fair enough, okay? Fair enough. I'm just destroying and disparaging my own argument here. I'm giving you some great ammo, okay, if you want to come at me. So that's probably one of the best arguments that you can do. Okay. So here is why ultimately me communicating to you does not diminish the theory in any way. Is not proof that the model is invalid. Right? This is quite a tough one to kind of tackle. But let me do something, just like I mix my metaphors, which I shouldn't do. There's another thing that I often do that I shouldn't, which is answer a question with a question. So, if I don't exist and you don't exist, who am I talking to? Well, let me ask you. Who are you talking to when you talk to yourself inside your head? When you have thoughts, and some people think mostly in words, other people think mostly in maybe images or emotions, but whatever the nature of your thinking is, whatever the precise quality of your thought is, it appears to something, which is to say, you are aware of your thoughts, however they manifest. Words, ideas, images, opinions, emotions, narratives, all of these wonderful things appear. Who do they appear to? You experience the content of your mind. Try this now. Are you experiencing the content of your mind? So if you can experience the content of your mind, it stands to reason that you are aware of the content of your mind. You are perceiving the content of the mind. You perceive thought and feeling. Now, who is that thought and feeling appearing to? Who is the content of the mind appearing to? And continually inquire into that. That's a very powerful technique in itself, self-inquiry. Because if you can perceive something, that means we must be at some kind of a distance from it. The content of the mind arises within the awareness. The content of the mind arises within the experience. And the thoughts are continually changing. The thoughts keep shifting. The thoughts come into awareness and then they go. Take your current thought, the current thought that you're currently having, and that thought is then gone, and we're on to the next thought. So the thought stream, the mind stream, is continuously shifting and changing, constantly. But that which is observing all of that, does not change, does not shift in awareness. It is the awareness. The awareness itself does not change. The awareness itself is constant. The awareness itself is not subject to the shifting qualities, shapes, colours and forms of the content of the mind. The same awareness that is aware of you being happy is the same awareness that is aware when you are feeling sad. Now, happiness and sadness are two very different things, but the awareness that perceives both of them is the same. The consciousness that observes your thought is neutral. It is neither happy nor sad. It observes happy, it observes sad. You are aware. When you are happy, you know you're happy. When you are sad, you know you are sad. But it's the knower that we are interested in here. The knower of your thoughts and feelings is what I am speaking to when I communicate. So my words are now, currently, at this moment, appearing within your consciousness. And your consciousness is a knowing. It knows that it's receiving these words. Whether it agrees, says good, or disagrees, says no, not buying it, whatever it says, you cannot deny that these words that I'm speaking is known. Okay? Now, the words that I am speaking arise within the same field of conscious awareness that your thoughts and feelings arise within. So it is that field of conscious awareness is what this body and mind is currently attempting to communicate to. These words, these ideas, these thoughts, these images are appearing to the knower, the conscious awareness, are appearing to the conscious awareness, only it appears currently to be on a screen. Some guy walking through a forest on a YouTube video speaking. And that is what is manifesting in front of you to your conscious awareness. Now, going in deeper here. So we're going a little way here to unraveling, to plugging the gap in the understanding, to removing the veil of endarkenment by coming towards something of an answer, which is, who am I talking to? If I don't exist, you don't exist, then who am I talking to? What I am, this communication of these words is arising currently within your conscious awareness. And that's who I'm communicating to, the knower. I'm not talking to your thoughts. I'm not talking to your mind. I'm not talking to your story, to your narrative. I'm talking to conscious awareness. That's who I'm talking to. Now let's really bake your noodle. You could make the distinction between external and internal. So let's say at this time I'm a sort of auxiliary surrogate thought stream, just an external one, because my words are arising within your field of conscious awareness in exactly the same way that thoughts arise within your field of conscious awareness. Only we make a distinction between the external, so we have external, guy on a screen on a YouTube video, right? And you have internal, your internal dialogue, your internal thoughts, your internal feelings. But just as the knower of thoughts is neutral as regards to it knows happiness in the same way that it knows sadness, and although there's a different quality to happiness and a different quality to sadness, both are known equally. And the knowing, the conscious awareness, is neutral. That same conscious awareness perceives and is aware of the external words arising on a screen out of speakers through headphones, is also aware of the internal dialogue, the internal words, thoughts, images, feelings. But the consciousness itself does not create a distinction between external and internal. The separation of internal and external is created by the mind. It is the mind that attaches an attribute, that attaches a description, that attaches a category to that which appears within conscious awareness. In this case, the mind is making the distinction between internal and external. But what if we collapsed that for a moment? Just for a moment. You can put this back up whenever you want, all right? Okay? You can have your separations, categories, distinctions, you can have it back whenever, right? It's quite easy to do. But just for this time, for the remainder of this exercise, don't allow the mind to create a separation, a distinction, a division. That's the word I was looking for. The mind creates the division, meaning the divide. The mind is what divides between the external and the internal. So, who is speaking and who am I speaking to? Well, we can answer the question, who am I speaking to? The conscious awareness. And there's no difference between the two. Here we go. The consciousness that is aware of the thoughts arising in your mind as well as my words that appear within that consciousness is the same as the consciousness that is aware of my thoughts and feelings, which is just as is aware of the words that I'm speaking. There's no distinction between that. I don't know what I'm going to say next any more than you do. You have no way of knowing what I'm about to say next. And neither do I. I have a general idea, just as you probably have a general idea. You've heard everything I've said thus far, and now you're thinking, you may have a general, oh, I think I see where he's going with this. And that's exactly where I'm at. I have a general plan of where I'm going with all of this. But in terms of the exact words I'm about to say next, how am I supposed to know that? The words that I'm speaking arise to me in exactly the same manner they are currently arising to you. We're going to take a moment to just be with that for a moment. Consider that. And at the same time of considering, wait a moment, I don't know what the next words are going to be. Not really. I don't have a script. You know, do you see a script? I don't have a team of people here, a teleprompter or anything, right? I don't know what's coming up next, any more than you know what's coming up next. And whilst considering that, also consider, do you know what your next thought is going to be? Do you know what's just around the corner for the thoughts that are about to arise in your mind? The moment you have an idea about what your next thought is going to be, it's the current thought. Try that now. So the words that I'm speaking arise from the same place as the thoughts in your mind. But I am speaking to the conscious awareness. There is no distinction between the two, between external and internal. Things that appear in the apparent outside world and things that appear in the apparent inside world both appear within the same space of neutral, ever present, ever clear, ever receptive, ever open, conscious awareness. So, the words, as they spontaneously arise within me and I have the inclination to speak them to this camera, are no different in any way to the thoughts that arise within your own mind. They arise out of conscious awareness that is localized within this body-mind. They are received by the conscious awareness that is received apparently by your individual body-mind. But the conscious awareness here and the conscious awareness there is the same one. So, That's about as best I can answer that question. The question of, if nobody is really here, it's all an illusion, who is speaking and who am I speaking to? That's as best I can do with that at this time. I'm speaking to conscious awareness and I'm speaking from conscious awareness. Which then brings us to the question of why? Why bother? What's the what's the purpose? If we're all a singular neural network on this apparent planet Earth, what's the point of isn't this all just an internal dialogue then? Well, yes, basically. I am your current internal dialogue. It just happens to appear to be external currently. But at this precise moment, as I speak, for all intents and purposes, I am your current inner dialogue. But if you imagine like all of humanity as a brain, right? One single brain, right? This is a current thought stream. It just appears to be happening between two separate individuals. So why bother? Why bother? Why continue talking to myself? That's the other thing. Am I just talking to myself right now? Well, I don't see many people around, so I guess I am talking to myself in more ways than one. There are 3 reasons that I speak on this. The first one is very spiritually satisfying, so I thought I should start with that one. Is not one of our primary motivations really to do anything is to be happier? Aren't we trying to be in a place where we have improved mental health, better mental health, more positive thoughts, more optimistic thoughts, more energized thoughts, more clear, more energized, excited, happy? Aren't we trying to become happier? And it's worth checking. Where is your inner dialogue going? Where's it going? Are your thoughts, day-to-day thoughts, quite happy? Are they positive, upbeat, or are they quite low and depressed? Are we trying to progress somewhere with our thoughts, or are we just wallowing, or even worse, regressing? So in life, if we take the apparent individual body-mind as an example, in life, are we not trying to move forwards into a space in which we generally have a more elevated, more refined, more conscious inner world? Is that not what we're striving for? A richer experience of life, of thought, of feeling? Is that not what we're striving for? To enjoy the experience of this world on an individual level? Is that not what we're trying to do as a motivating factor for life? As far as I can tell, that's probably the best goal to go for. Be happier. And if you can, make the people around you happier. That's the best motivation for anything. It's the most sane. If you're doing anything other than that, what are you doing? That's odd to me. So naturally, earlier in my life, I've been focused probably entirely on just this individual body-mind because I'm trying to make this individual body-mind happier, to improve the quality of the experience of which I'm consciously aware. But as I've come now into a deeper realization and understanding, we'll go back to the collective mind of humanity. we'll come to see it as all just one singular mind here, well then, aren't we looking to try and improve the quality of the experience for the whole? The whole. The Gestalt, the whole, meaning the whole being. Because I feel it in a funny kind of way, an intuitive sort of way, that there's no point, like, how best to put it? Like, there's no point just trying to make yourself happy because you're not separate from the rest of existence, okay? You've got to try and elevate the happiness of everything. It's all got to go up. Like when the water in the harbour goes up, all the ships go up at the same time. And you can't be happy in an unhappy organism. If humanity is one single organism, if humanity is unhappy, that's the organism. You know, if your whole body is sick, if the body is sick, it affects every single organ. It doesn't just affect the one part that it's affecting. If you have a wound in the body, it affects the entire body. It affects the whole system. If the body is sick, every single part of that body will suffer as a result of that. So what am I getting at here? Well, that's why it's important, I believe, to share the teachings that result on a very deep, fundamental, systematic level in the improving of the global consciousness. That's why. That is why. That's why I talk on this. If all of humanity is a brain, what's happening right now is the reaction that happens in the brain between, synapses? Yes, synapse. Because between a synapse, there's a tiny little gap. There's a tiny little nodule. And between the synapses is the gap, and it's the small jumping of, I think it's an electron, a little electrical charge that just jumps the gap. And that's what's happening here. The thought has to jump through this camera, through your screen and through your speakers, and that transmission of a communication is like the transmission of that little electrical pulse between synapses. So that's all that's happening. There's just we're just trying to work out this global stream of thought that we're having. That's why bother, okay? Now, that does not in any way weaken the theory of global consciousness. It actually strengthens it. It strengthens the consciousness-only model. If I'm a synapse, you're a synapse. Now, from our individual perspectives, we think, no, it's much more complicated than that. Well, of course we'd think that, right? Of course we'd think that. From our limited perspective, of course, that's how we're going to think, because that's how it appears. It appears more complicated than that, but it's not. It's as simple as that. I mean, the synapse has a very complicated job to do. And so if the synapse had senses, let's do that little exercise again. We gave the synapse perceiving faculties, it would believe it's doing an incredibly complicated job. Because it is. But from the zoomed out perspective, it looks incredibly simple. It's just an electrical impulse jumping from one side to the other. So although, this is incredibly arduous, taxing work for me, because I'm trying to think at a mile a minute here, I'm trying to think about what the right thing to say is. I'm thinking about how this is going to be received. I'm worried that I look like a complete deranged lunatic ranting to himself in the middle of a forest, which obviously isn't the case, right? So, to me, it appears very complicated, but in essence, it's actually, if we zoom the picture out, all that's happening is a tiny little bit of data transfer within a much larger global neural network. So that's reason one. Why am I talking if nobody exists? Well, there you go. Second reason, this is slightly less spiritually satisfying, and the third one is not spiritually satisfying at all. You're going to hate it. But this second one here is why talk. I enjoy it. I love this. This is the happiest part of my day. Some people might think that sounds quite sad, but I don't. I love this. I love it. I'm having a great time right now. I feel valid. I feel like I'm working to the maximum of my potential. I feel like I'm bringing the best of my skills, my knowledge, my experience to the forefront with the intention to help others. Help them with their understanding, help them plug gaps in their knowledge, and help them with their mental health by helping them to find some inner peace. And I can take all of my experience and all of the darkness and all of the strife and struggle that I've been through over the years, poor me, and transmute it into something valuable, potentially, well, and have fun doing it. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's great. So why do it? Yeah, because it's fun. I enjoy it. Is that so awful? It would be kind of stupid not to do it. And in some ways, wouldn't it be immoral not to do it? If I've come to some kind of understanding and have some kind of way of communicating that seems to resonate with people and have found a method to do it, and I know that it helps people, from people telling me in their experience, some of this stuff really helps me. I've had a lot of people saying that. Now, once I know that, it would be an immoral act to stop doing it. So I enjoy it, and now I'm in that kind of position where it would be immoral to not do it. So that's the second reason. The third reason, you know, if nobody exists, why am I on YouTube? Using that as that disparages your argument. Why am I on YouTube? Well, I am broke. I am skint. I think I've also just stepped in dog poo. I have. Ah, crumbs. Yeah, crumbs. Ugh. Alright. Job done. Good grief. What a pickle. Right. Why am I on YouTube? Well, I'm skint. Alright. I am broke. And this isn't to have a sob story, but just to let you know my background if you're new to the channel. And by the way, welcome to all the new subscribers. Appreciate every single one of you. I know that it's a big ask when people watch these videos, like and subscribe, all of that sort of stuff, because you're investing your energy, your time and attention, and I know that is no small thing. So thank you. Thank you to all the new subscribers and all the current subscribers. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, truly. So if you are new, a little bit of the background here, the story so far, I was a personal trainer. I had been very obese, very alcoholic, very unhealthy, very unhappy, very depressed, very anxious, very low, and suddenly turned my whole life around and embarked on a process of transformation, a process of healing, a process of growth and recovery, which went 10 years as I learned to be a fitness instructor and a personal trainer and a spin instructor and a motivational speaker. And then I suffered an awful back injury which is resulting in fairly severe chronic pain all the time, and means that I can't train and I can't do my job. And it's been a bit of a disaster. A catastrophe. And necessity is the mother of invention, right? I had to find a way of doing something to move my situation forward. It's no point just falling into a pit of despair. And my body is broken, so I can no longer use that body, which is what I was using to generate income. So I've switched to use my other skills, the irony of that. The communication skills, just managed to bungle the word communication, the communication skills. Unbelievable. I had to switch to that. And that's just my other skill set, basically. And I had this YouTube channel up and running, so I thought I'd pour a bit more into that. And look, I don't like asking for the likes and subscribes and to join the channel membership at the bottom in order to support me in my work and improve my equipment. I hate it. I hate it. I'm just being honest. I don't like doing it. It's humiliating. It's not how I would choose to draw my income if I could find another way. But right now, I am on my uppers. My back is against the wall and I am facing a very uncertain future, and I cannot make ends meet. I'm just being as honest and transparent as I can. One of the reasons why I do this and make these videos is because I need to generate an income. I only ever speak the honest truth as it arises, and that's one of the reasons. So that's the 3 reasons why I speak on this channel. It does, obviously, people say, you know, if you're so awakened, so enlightened and all of that, then you wouldn't care about the individual body-mind, about taking care of it, but that's not true. Of course you'd take care. All of the greatest sages and saints say, no, look after yourself. Ramana Maharshi said, there's no conflict between work and wisdom. Ramana Maharshi always said that people should go away from his ashram, go back to their family lives, look after their families, and and work. Just carry on with your normal life, only from an awakened position. You should take care of your life. You should take care of your body. Doesn't matter how awakened or enlightened you are, you might as well. Anyway, I hope that goes some way to answering some of those questions. I cannot get around to answering all of those comments. There's just too many of them, okay? But I appreciate absolutely every single one of you for following, for liking, subscribing, and if you do want to support me and my work and join the old channel membership, you can do. It's as small a monthly fee as I could possibly put on there, with a few options there, but you gain access. All tiers of membership gain access to all of my exclusive guided meditations and talks, and those meditations are from the teaching and the discipline of Advaita, which you don't find in many places. So, that's everything today, team. I'd better go and clean some of this dog poo off my shoe. Take care, be well, and stay present.